Hello, my name is Christopher, and thank you for joining me on today's podcast. The topic of the day will be religion, its significant or role in the modern world, particularly in Western cultures, the use of caring and understanding of various religious traditions, an introduction and definition of religion and religious worldview, and some real examples of the way that religion functions in contemporary society, all of which is rooted in the academic study of religion. So then let's get right into the content. Before moving any further, I would just like to define the concept of religion for clarity's sake. For this discussion, religion will be understood as an institutionalized expression of faith, both public and private, in some form of sacred reality, most notably being in God or gods. So the next question for me that seems pretty straightforward is, why is it significant? Why talk about religion? Why even discuss it? So, for me, religion was once and remains for many the focal point of existence. The sacred realm, particularly prior to the Enlightenment, was what gave people meaning, purpose, direction, something to live by. Now, I don't think this is necessarily true for everyone ever, or is now, but for a lot of people, it's really, really significant, and it's even more significant today since we have such a clash of cultures living together, particularly in the United States and even on a more local level in Cleveland. So the question for me remains then is, why is religion still significant? Why is it so important outside of the fact that people just practice it, and there are lots of people that live together that practice different religions? And I think a good way of just even starting about the discussion is just providing an example for myself. And I live in the city of Cleveland now, and in the city of Cleveland there's a large Hindu and Muslim population, on top of a large Latin American Christian population and different populations from around the globe. But this is incredibly significant to my daily life because I'm in a close environment, and in my neighborhood I have people who are practicing different religions that have different ways that they interact with the world, and without understanding that, without having some sort of connection, whether it's just academic or it's emotional or it's spiritual or whatever it is, then there's going to be a clash. And throughout the world we've seen how that's been solved, or not throughout the world, throughout history we've seen how that's been solved, which is through force and domination, and that just doesn't work. We know that doesn't work. Maybe it works for a couple of people, but in reality I don't think it really works for anyone. It creates a lot of harm and violence, and that's just not the way that I would like to go about doing things. So, moving on, I say this because the fact of the matter is we are all dependent on each other for survival, and diversity is becoming less and less of an ideal concept. It's becoming a reality, whether we like it or not. And the old way of dominating and forcing people to embrace certain faith traditions just doesn't work anymore. So, for me, it's time we begin embracing a new way of relating, one based on positive, open religious worldviews. A worldview is an outlook or an attitude towards something. It could be towards anything. I have a worldview towards, X, Y, or Z. So, given our definition of religion, a positive, open religious worldview would be an outlook towards individuals of varying faith traditions that is positive in terms of support and open in terms of understanding their history, beliefs, and struggles. It is a way for us to embrace and transcend cultural lines, sharing our own history and learning new ones. So it is really the way for us to live together in a way that is more than just tolerance, but acceptance. Now I'd like to provide another example from my own life that ties in some of these concepts we've been talking about. During the fall of 2010, I was living in Ghana, which is a country situated along the southern coast of West Africa, and I was studying abroad there. And in southern Ghana, where I was living, the population is primarily Christian, but for about 10 days I got the opportunity to travel to northern Ghana, which is Muslim, and one night there I was given the opportunity to stay on someone's rooftop. Was a great opportunity in the sense that it was very cheap and it's very hot, so it was much cooler to stay on someone's rooftop. However, what I didn't know was that at 5 a.m. in the morning I was going to be woken up to the Muslim call to prayer, which is one of the loudest things I've ever heard. And at the time when it happened, I was just so frustrated and so angry and just feeling so apathetic towards religious practice or ritual And I mean, I'm not religious as it is, so it just wasn't making it any better, but there wasn't any understanding, which was the deeper issue behind this, because it was leading me to make generalizations and just have a lot of cultural ignorance. And for the longest time, actually until taking a course in the academic study of religion, I carried a lot of bitter and negative sentiments toward this practice, and I thought it was unnecessary, crude, and inhospitable to anyone but those embracing the ritual. However, as I said, I knew nothing about the religious tradition, its purpose, its meaning, and how it related to the way they interacted with the world. And what I really needed was to take some time to analyze and think critically about how the ritual may have reflected their sacred reality and fundamental beliefs about the world they inhabit. So, after taking some time to really think about these questions, which are at the heart of the academic study of religion, I was able to generate an acceptance and an understanding, and most importantly, a bridge which could allow our worlds to coexist, and ended up developing some really great relationships with people there. So, I'm not quite sure if I'll ever cut in a moment like that again, but in many ways, I hope to, as this time I'll be ready and able to accept it as a cultural experience, and one that brings so much joy and meaning to so many people, and can bring joy and meaning to my life, even though it's not the way that I necessarily view or interpret the world. So that basically is what I have for you today, and really thank you for listening and watching.